it's time for the deep dive, Cos.
Yeah.
So you're ready to go with this? You're having a look at the Cowboys. They seemingly seem disjointed. And they haven't been delivering results.
Well, if you're a Cowboys fan, please come on through and have your say. 0467 736 736. I mean, this is the reality of the Cowboys, Heels. We're at round 17 this week, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys have had 2 byes. In that time, they have won 5 games. Okay. They've beaten the Titans, who are sitting 17th in the competition. They have beaten South, who are sitting 16th in the competition. They have beaten the Tigers, who are sitting 14th in the competition. They have beaten the Panthers back in round 4, when the Panthers were 0-4 at that point and a shadow of themselves. And they've beaten the Raiders. Okay? The North Queensland Cowboys points differential at the moment is minus 140. They are conceding 30-plus points a game. 10 times this season, they have conceded 30 points or more. 10 times. This is a team, Heels, that has Dearden, McLean, Robson, Nane, Hess, Cotter, Taulagi. That's 7. Bateman, test player. Griffin Neem, test player. Jason Taumalolo, test player. 3 test players there, and there's a couple others that I may have missed. What we're seeing at the moment from the Cowboys is diabolical, and I can't, for the life of me, understand what is going on up there. And maybe it's a little case of out of sight, out of mind for the Cowboys, but they're in huge trouble at the moment. Now, whether it's their list, whether it's their retention, whether it's some of their older ageing bodies, whether it's some of their coaching decisions, whether it's a collective of all of it, that list that they have at the moment, Heels, should be doing far better than what we're seeing. It's going to be interesting to see today because obviously Teamless Tuesday this afternoon and what unfolds off the back of that, but they have well and truly underperformed. I go through, they've beaten the Titans, South, the Tigers, all of these teams in the bottom 4 of the competition.
And they've conceded 10 times out of 16 rounds, 30 points or more.
30 points
10 out of 16.
Or more. I mean, you go through they've conceded over 100 points in the last 2 games alone. 58 points against the Dolphins they conceded. 42 points in a backup game against the Roosters. 34 points to 18, 38 points to 14 against the Melbourne Storm. What is Todd Payten saying to this team? Because if you're a Cowboys fan, and a lot of their fans do travel, and they're parochial fans, and they travel long distances to come and watch their team play, what are they seeing? What's changed? This is a team, if you go back a number of seasons, who I thought had a red-hot crack defensively. They had a real steely mindset. Then they had a year where they just completely got blown off the park. This is where we're at right now. So is it a personnel? Is it the coach? Or is it a collective of all? Because at the moment, Heels, they are under enormous amounts of pressure on the hot seat. As touched on, Todd Payten has to be on that on a hot seat. It is just unacceptable for the Cowboys with a roster the way they are at the moment, tossing up what they're tossing up. It's just not where they should be. I understand, it's a tough competition, et cetera, et cetera. And some teams you go through ups and downs and ebbs and flows and the like. But, boy, they have some young players coming through. Yes. Has that experiment worked with Jackson Purdue going into the 6? Probably not. Is he going to stick with it? I think he may. Today will give us a real good indication off the back of that. They've got some young superstars. I mean, you go through their team. 7 current State of Origin players in that side.
They're not tackling.
It's just not there is no resilience from a defensive point of view with the Cowboys this season. Absolutely none. And you can't suggest, again, Nane, Robson, Taulagi, Cotter, Hess, Dearden, McLean, they've all played Origin, if not still are. Bateman, Griffin Neem, Taumalolo. These players aren't just knockabout name. Like they're representative players, yet they're tossing up something that's just not acceptable. So I just had to dive into it, and the more I dived into it, the worse it got. And I can only imagine what the Cowboys fans are thinking at this point in time. They are sitting in a position at the moment, the Cowboys, that is just far, far from acceptable. And they take on, Heels, the Gold Coast Titans this weekend. Okay. So, like, one game you'd like to think from a Queenslander's perspective, you really like to put a circle around it and highlight it. Well, it's fair. It's a bit of a stink bowl, to be fair. These two teams who have come in together, the Titans, who equally have as many representative players currently being run out for the Titans, who, again, are in a similar situation. The Titans are a team, when you look at through their roster, should be far better than what they are. So they take on each other this weekend. So flip a coin. Your guess is as good as mine on what unfolds in that one.
You do see the Cowboys and feel the Cowboys are more cohesive at times and together than the Titans.
Yeah, I think it's a fallacy, mate.
We see it in Titans have never been together.
Well, that's a fair point. We see it in short periods. They've only won 5 games. In that game that they won 32 points to 28 over the Tigers, they were running home hard, the Tigers. Only just time sort of beat them and a couple of decisions. Yeah, Otherwise, that would have been one that got away from them.
But I mean, over the years, the Cowboys have had better runs than the Titans. The Titans have done coach after coach after coach. I don't know why they can't get them going.
Well, the Titans are a team that has certainly come into play over the last few weeks in terms of coach. And there's whispers going around, and we're going to talk to Travis Meyn a little later in the show, and he'll be able to clarify a few things. There is some whispers going around that Des Hasler is going to retire at season's end. Now, I'm sorry, but if that is the case, for me personally, what's the upside to having a Des Hasler involved as your coach now? If he is
throw caution to the wind.
Well, if he is going to retire, and that is, and they would only know that, why is he coaching? And nothing personal against Des, but the reality is they're going like bastards themselves. So give Jimmy Lenahan the role. He's been there before, or give Brett White or an assistant who's been there before the role to take the reins moving forward. What have they got to lose? I mean, there could be some different views. There'd be a few different personnel changes perhaps, but at the moment, they're a team also, Heels, that are far underachieving where they are.
Just looking up their points differential too, you said the Cowboys, they're 140 on the table, minus 140. Minus 138.
Yeah.
Titans.
They're equally as bad. And it pains me to say, because we all want the Queensland sides to go well, but boy, there's some coaches that are absolutely under the pump at the moment. I mean, is it Des Hasler? Is it Todd Payten in front and centre there? You've got Seabold who's come under pressure south of the border. You've got O'Brien that's come under pressure south of the border. Benji Marshall. But boy, if we look in our own very backyard here at the moment, there is some concerns.
Well, in the hot front yard in Townsville, Cameron says Todd's lost the playing group. And clearly the plot, after starting the season with 2 straight losses, he removed Duffy for Clifford, and we proceeded to win 5 of the next 7. He then unexpectedly and inexplicably drops Clifford for Purdue, who was our best attacking threat in the centres. And we've gone 1 from 5 since.
That's the Redcliffe Rat, Cameron. Another one here, Morning Legends. As far as coaches under the hot seat, I think you're talking about status and the money would cost to get him. It has to be Des Hasler. But if you're looking at sheer results and expectation, it has to be O'Brien. But I think those two gentlemen would be most under fire at the moment. Well, O'Brien, I mean, see, again, off the back of what I was talking about yesterday, O'Brien sits currently 13th. They've had 1 bye. So get 2 more byes, they're up into the 8, around the 8 mark. But for the Cowboys, who have already had 2 byes, they've only had 5 wins. The Knights have had 6. But 2 byes still got to come to their side. But if you look at the 2 teams, boy, you just got to think that the Cowboys, Heels, have far underachieved where they should be. Absolutely underachieved.
From a well-organised franchise, whatever you call them, licensees, they're generally well board run.
Yes.
Their charity and community work is excellent. Their Blackhawks are leading the Host Plus Cup. So that's their feeders. So the pathway's good, just the team isn't performing defensively for a start.
Yeah, Anthony's come through. He seems to think Shane Flanagan's in the hot seat. As if they lose again and he doesn't make the change he should, I would suggest he's gone. Boy, should have never got him as a coach anyway. Dean Young should have been there for a better choice.
Where's Dean Young now?
He's there.
Somewhere?
He's there.
At Dragons?
There. Yeah.
Okay, so he's still able to be the interim if that does happen, if the axe falls. So, yes. Dean Young seems to have a nice reputation with players and people alike.
He does. So there you go. That's just sort of my take on where the Cowboys are at the moment. This game on the weekend's going to be very, very interesting for both coaches. It's fair to say, well, I don't know if you agree or not, Des Hasler and the Gold Coast Titans sitting 17th at the moment have 4 victories. That's it. That is it at the moment. They are dead mother's last, anchored to the bottom. If they continue with a lot, if they lose this weekend, you would think Des is gone. I mean, the board's come out. He's got clauses in contract. There's word going around that he potentially is going to retire, etc. And I say, if that is the case, and they're the only ones that will know that, I think that needs to happen sooner rather than later if there is a retirement on the cards for him. As for Todd Payten, well, boy, if the Titans can beat the Cowboys, it doesn't get any better at all for Todd Payten.
No.
With a team that he has and with a team that he has put together. In a team that is very much underperforming at the moment. Travis Meyn, Courier Mail expert, who joins us on the line at the moment. Morning, Trav.
Hey, boys, how are you?
Yeah, going really well.
Thanks,
Mate, our hot topic question this morning is in around some of the coaches on the hot seat. And one person, look, to your credit, mate, you have been front and centre asking the hard-hitting questions to Des Hasler, who is under enormous amounts of pressure at the moment. What are you hearing down there on the Gold Coast?
It's funny you say that. I actually sin-binned him a few weeks ago, and I'm not going to his press conferences anymore because they're a waste of time most of the time. So, look, he's in a world of hurt, Des. I don't see how they come back from this. They're outright last on the ladder now, the worst defence in the comp. The Cowboys have done their best to match them in that now. They've conceded the same amount of points, setting up a blockbuster Sunday afternoon clash from the Gold Coast this weekend. I just don't see Des being there next year. He got asked on the weekend. There's been a lot of rumours about him potentially just walking away from the club at the end of the year. So, look, they might not have to sack him. They might just come to an agreement that he departs and sort of sails off into the sunset, but I can't see him coaching the Titans next year.
We spoke about that before, and I said, only Des and the management, I suppose, will know if he is actually going to walk away at this season's end. If that is the case, I think they need to make the call now. And push forward, whether it's a Jimmy Lenahan, one of the assistants there, who would have enough credentials to take the team forward, moving forward. But there's no upside whatsoever if Des is going to move on at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, at the moment, it looks now like they're just treading water and wasting time once again.
Yeah.
So, look, if they've made that decision, maybe they should just cut ties and move on and get on with life. I think some of the best footy the Titans have played in the last couple of years is when Jimmy Lenahan was in charge. He's a hard man, but he's a fair man, and they showed a real grit about him when he took over after Holbrook was sacked a couple of years ago. They didn't get a lot of results, but they were in a lot of games. They were fighting hard, and they definitely showed more resolve under him than they have in the last year or two under Des.
I liken Des to how I felt in my last couple of interviews, media-wise, when I knew I was cooked. Right, you just roll out words that don't even make that much sense. You listen. He's very willing to answer any question now, isn't he? And words are rolling out. Is that a bit of a sign you think that he's resigned to the fact that he's not there for long?
Well, the noise is getting louder and louder. So something is obviously going on. The Titans put out a weird statement.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago. Then they got flogged by the Broncos by 40 points a few days later. So, look, if they are planning to move him out at the end of the year, just cut to the chase and get it done. Let's all just move on with life. It was another failed experiment by the people in charge of the club. It's got 4 years in a row now. They're in the bottom 4 of the ladder, and they need to make some big changes if they're ever going to be a success here.
Travis, do you have any suspicions on why they just don't play to their paper potential?
I just think there's a soft underbelly at the club, and apparently Des was supposed to come in and fix that, but I think it takes more than just a coach to turn it around. Like, the sort of the whole ethos of the club is wrong. They've got all their time invested in the wrong areas, and their roster. I didn't rate it going into this year. I know my good mate Buzz Rothfield said they were top 8 certainties. I just couldn't see it. They've got way too much money invested in the forward pack.
Yes,
and they've just totally neglected the halves and the key positions. You know, so. How they ever thought that was going to be a success is beyond me.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time your great mate Buzz Rothfield was wrong, mate. But if they do push forward, and it's inevitable, and Des Hasler's not going to be the coach moving forward, who are some of the front runners that you think may be in role for the job?
Oh, there's quite a few that have thrown their hand up. Someone's reached out to Craig Bellamy. I don't know if it was a third party involved with the club or what. Someone's asked a question of his management at least. Someone associated with the Titans. I think the leading contender should probably be Josh Hannay. Mm-hmm. He's a great fella, a hard coach, very smart guy. Deals well with the media. Just a good person. I think he's due for a chance. Every time he's stepped into a coaching role, he's taken on a basket case after a club's sacked the coach, and he's done it with honour. So I think he should be one of the leading contenders. And you've got other guys that are already having their cases pushed, like Brad Arthur, Willie Peters in the UK. There's a lot of noise about him. Even Sam Burgess, I couldn't see him coming here. So there's plenty of contenders. They just got to get it right and just sort of change the whole philosophy of the club and what they want to achieve.
Yeah, no, good call. How is their adherence to standards? That you feel when you are down there. Does that seem a priority to this club with this soft underbelly?
Well, I think Des has tried to drive the players pretty hard, but he's just not getting sort of a response from them consistently. Like, they came out, and it doesn't seem to matter who's on the field. They came out a couple of weeks ago and did a job on Manly at home, which was their best performance of the year by a mile, especially defensively. They showed a real grit. Manly didn't show up on the night, so you can take out of that what you want. But then their performance against Parramatta on the weekend just gone was just embarrassing. You can see 36 points to that Parramatta team. They didn't have Mitchell Moses or Dylan Brown. They had no one in the halves, no one at hooker. The young fullback played all right, but they just threw it in again. And they had Tino and Mo back on deck, so it doesn't really seem to matter who's playing for them. There's no correlation between having their best players on the park and their best performance. That's a bit of a myth that, if you're missing your best players, you're going to play poorly, because it's not the case with them. So, look, I think Des has tried to drive him pretty hard, but he's just not getting a response consistently.
And Travis and Corey, name me a player that's become a better player at the Titans.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a good question that you ask. There's some players that have gone into the representative mould over the recent years, Beau Fermor being one of those, but it's interesting because you see the likes of, say, the Dolphins, who's got a new head coach on board this year, who are very much under strength at different stages, who continually, and they had a hiccup on the weekend, but have been in great form and just get the job done. Yet you see a team, and I rattled through before, Trav, I think there was six Origin players, 5 of those being current ones, and just not able to get the job done. And then you go, well, okay, in the game, maybe they dropped a fair bit of ball and they had some excuses that way. Well, no, they completed at 84% on the weekend. They had even share of possession, yet got absolutely dominated.
Well, their defence every year is just not up to NRL standards. So until you get that right, we've seen Penrith, they're the best defensive team in the comp for 4 years in a row, essentially, and they won 4 premierships. So it's not rocket science what they need to do, but they just can't seem to make it happen.
So the thing with defence, Trav, is when you are going through structure with defence, it comes with a training standard, and having your standard at a high enough for a long enough period, which is then instills you from into a game. You've been to enough training sessions at the Gold Coast Titans. Are you seeing them train at a high intensity for long enough periods?
I think Des has driven that, yeah. But for some reason on the field, they just don't seem to want to hang in every week for 80 minutes. So, like we saw it against Manly, the way they defended with not enough players was right up to the standard. But I don't see there being a huge problem between training standards and that. I just think they've got their list wrong. And I just think the overall philosophy at the club is too soft.
In the Gold Coast or around the club, is the football manager high enough profile? We talk about the head coach copping it, but where's that? How are those departments going?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a real change from the right at the top down. So they all need to look at themselves, from the owners to the board to the CEO to the football department, because all they keep doing is just rolling through coaches. So the same people have been in charge there for the ownership model's been in charge for eight plus years, around 8 years, and they were all involved in the multiple years before that when the NRL was in charge of the club as well. So they keep going on about accountability and that, but the only accountability they show is sacking coaches and getting a new one, thinking that's going to fix everything.
Yep. And they've done it time and time again.
How many times you gone down the M1 for a short press conference, mate?
Oh, too many. I'm just over it now. Yeah, like it's not worth, it's wasting 2 hours of your day to go to Dez's presses when he winds them up after 2 or 3 minutes, and what he does say is pretty much totally unusable in a newspaper story. So.
Hey, yeah. Trav, we really appreciate your time this morning. We won't be, you can use us anytime you like. We'd love to have you on more often. Thanks for that, mate, and appreciate it.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks, boys. Just want to see him go well. Fire up, Titans. Come on.
Yeah, we all do, absolutely. Along with the Cowboys, along with the Dolphins, Broncos, all 4 Queensland teams. Want to see them absolutely at their
players.
peak. Yes, they do.